Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. If you keep watering dead plants, don't be surprised when your garden never blooms. See, life doesn't break you. People do. People you call friends, fam, day ones. The ones you thought would clap the loudest are the ones folding their arms when it's your turn to rise. Not because you did them wrong, but because your growth became a mirror and they didn't like what they saw. You've been dragging dead weight and calling it loyalty, carrying people who wouldn't lift a finger for you, listening to small minds debate dreams they're too scared to chase. But hear me today, your circle is slowing you down. Look around. Who's feeding your fire and who's draining your flame? Who's checking your vision and who's distracting your focus? Some of you aren't tired because of the grind. You're tired because you're surrounded by people who don't match your energy, your ambition, your purpose. Let's be real. You got friends who love the old you, the version of you who played small, the you who made excuses, the you who never said no. But the moment you set a boundary, the moment you start dreaming bigger, they flinch. They get uncomfortable. You know why? Because your elevation demands separation. You were never meant to fly in a flock of pigeons when you were born to soar with eagles. I'm not here to preach friendship funerals, but I am here to tell you this. Not everyone can go where you're going, and the ones that can won't make you question your worth just to be included. Let me break it down. Some folks love to keep you close as long as you stay beneath them. The moment you start to rise, get a promotion, start a business, lose weight, find peace, speak up, they switch up. Suddenly you change. No, you didn't change. You evolved, and they stayed still. That's the real tension. You know what slows champions down? Not failure, not setbacks, not rejection. It's toxic loyalty. Loyalty to unfruitful friendships. Loyalty to people who clap when you lose and grow silent when you win. Loyalty to people who want your light dim because your shine makes them squint. Listen, growth is uncomfortable, but staying stuck is tragic. You gotta stop letting people guilt trip you into stagnation. You owe no one your potential. You ever seen a snake shed its skin? That's survival. That's nature. Because keeping old layers kills the creature inside. You're not selfish for shedding relationships that no longer fit who you're becoming. That's spiritual survival. And here's the truth you've been avoiding. Sometimes it's not the devil that's blocking your breakthrough. It's your circle. Their doubt, their fear, their lack of vision, their drama, their laziness, their comfort with average. You're becoming allergic to environments where mediocrity is normalized. You weren't designed to fit in. You were designed to break patterns. Let me tell you what I learned the hard way. If you surround yourself with 5 broke, bitter, or visionless people, you'll become the same. Not because you want to, but because energy is contagious. You catch what's around you. That's why you're burnt out, distracted, second-guessing your dreams. Because every time you try to take a step forward, your circle pulls you 2 steps back. They say they support you, but never show up. They say they believe in you, but laugh behind your back. They say you've changed, but never admit they stayed the same. You don't need more support. You need alignment. You need people who speak your language, who don't get intimidated by your ambition, who challenge your thinking, not just agree with your complaining, who push you to do better, not pull you back into your old habits. Ask yourself this today. Who in my life is watering my future? Who is poisoning my purpose? Because here's the truth. Association breeds manifestation. You want to elevate your income, change your circle. You want to heal emotionally, change your circle. You want to grow spiritually, change your circle. God never intended for you to grow in every soil. Some people are concrete, they look stable, but they can't nurture anything alive. You're planting seeds of greatness in places that have no intention of ever giving you light. And let me say this especially to the people pleasers out there. You are not a bad person for outgrowing someone. You are not disloyal for choosing peace over proximity. You are not arrogant for protecting your energy. You are not fake for setting boundaries. You are healing. You are becoming. You are stepping into the life God actually designed for you. That's why it's uncomfortable. That's why it feels lonely, because transformation is a shedding process, and not everyone is willing to strip their ego to find their purpose. But you are, and that's why you're listening to this right now. Let me remind you of something. You are the average of your circle. If they gossip, you'll gossip. If they settle, you'll settle. If they make excuses, you'll pick up the habit. But if they dream, you'll dream bigger. If they read, you'll learn. If they pray, you'll grow. If they execute, you'll rise. You don't need fans, you need fellow warriors. People who don't flinch when you talk about legacy. People who don't shrink when you talk about ownership. People who speak life when life starts draining you. Stop mistaking history for destiny. Just because you grew up together doesn't mean you're growing together. Just because you've been friends for years doesn't mean they're meant for your next level. Just because they were there in your pain doesn't mean they can handle your purpose. Check your circle, audit your energy, and most importantly, love people but choose your environment wisely. You can't fly carrying people who refuse to leave the ground. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is love them from a distance, because your peace matters, your mission matters, your legacy matters. Listen, the reason some of you feel stuck isn't because you lack the potential. It's because you've let people rent space in your life with no vision, no direction, and no rent due. Evict the voices that don't push you forward. Block the calls that keep pulling you back. Silence the noise that distracts from your calling. You were meant for more than surface level friendships and one-sided relationships. You were meant to build, to soar, to impact. And you can't do that in circles that confuse comfort with connection. You want to move faster, cut dead weight. You want to breathe lighter, release the toxic tide. You want to go further. Link up with visionaries, not vampires. Because here's what no one tells you. Elevation costs something. And one of the first bills you'll pay is relational pruning. You don't lose people when you level up. You reveal who was never really with you. So stop shrinking just to fit back into places you've already outgrown. Stop playing small to make insecure people comfortable. Stop hiding your brilliance because it makes average people nervous. You are not too much, they are too little. Let them go. Let go of the group chat that talks more than they move. Let go of the lunch table that critiques but never creates. Let go of the friends who love you sick but can't handle you healed. Let go of the circles that feel familiar but don't feed your faith. You're not selfish, you're strategic. You're not distant, you're discerning. You're not cold, you're focused. Because once you taste peace, you'll never beg for chaos again. Once you walk with lions, you won't crawl with snakes. Once you start building legacy, you won't entertain lazy. Let me leave you with this. You don't need a crowd, you need clarity. You don't need applause, you need alignment. You don't need everyone, you need the right ones, the ones who stretch you, who sharpen you, who challenge your growth without resenting your shine. So take this moment and ask yourself, is my circle a ladder or a leash? Are they elevating me or anchoring me? Do I feel inspired or drained when I leave them? Because at the end of the day, your life is too valuable to waste in rooms that don't echo your vision. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. You can't fly with anchors tied to your wings. Cut them loose and soar. Soar. You were born for it, built for it, designed from the ground up for a destiny that requires altitude. But too many of you are glancing back at ground level loyalty and wondering why you can't catch the wind. Let me tell you something. Elevation and validation don't come from the same crowd. If you're waiting for claps from the ones who secretly hope you fall, you'll be waiting forever. Some of you are trying to ignite rockets with people who only carry water buckets. Every time you take a step up, they remind you of where you used to be. Don't forget where you came from, they say. No, the real line is don't get stuck where you came from. Yes, honor your root, but don't you dare let your past people bury your future potential, because where you came from may be your story, but it's not your ceiling. You gotta stop running back to comfort every time greatness stillness starts calling. You gotta stop confusing history with harmony. Just because the vibe is good doesn't mean the vision aligns. You're building a skyscraper. Why are you hanging around people who are still arguing over who gets the basement? This is the season to build with builders, to walk with warriors, to partner with people who don't just like your posts but fuel your progress. And hear me, you don't need 20 people. Sometimes one aligned connection is more powerful than 100 aimless companions. You want proof? Look at David, surrounded by a crowd, but it was one stone that took down Goliath. Look at Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, but positioned in the palace. Sometimes your circle isn't shrinking. God is editing your cast for the next act of your life. Let him. Let the ones who leave, leave. Let the doors that close, close. Let the silence speak. Because when God starts preparing a table before you, he also rearranges the guest list. And yes, it'll hurt. Yes, you'll miss them. Yes, you'll cry. But hear me, pain is not always a sign something's wrong. Sometimes it's confirmation something's ending. Let it end. That friend who only calls when they need something, let them go. That cousin who never celebrates you, wish them well and move forward. That group chat full of shade, secrets, and stagnation, leave it. That relationship built on trauma, not trust, release it. Because here's the harsh truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Your energy is sacred. Your focus is rare. Your spirit is expensive. You've got too much to do to keep entertaining empty connections. You've got books to write, businesses to build, minds to change, legacies to leave. Stop negotiating your time with people who wouldn't show up to your funeral, yet expect front row access to your success. Stop dimming your light so fragile egos can feel comfortable in your shine. Stop apologizing for growing when they had the same 24 hours and chose excuses instead. This is your season of discipline. This is your season of clarity. This is your season of divine separation, not out of pride, but out of purpose. Because the truth is, before God elevates you, he isolates you. He trims the circle. He filters the noise. He silences the opinions, not to hurt you, but to prepare you. Because where you're going, the air gets thinner. You can't take everything with you. You can't hear clearly in crowded spaces. And you can't move freely when you're carrying dead weight. So ask yourself right now, who in your life is a parachute and who's a sandbag? Who pushes you higher and who pulls you under? Who prays with you and who prays on your progress? You can't afford to ignore these questions anymore. Your future depends on the answers, because every minute spent with the wrong circle is a minute delayed from your destiny. And I need you to know this with everything in me. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to move different. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to build in silence. You are allowed to separate without explanation, because sometimes the people you're afraid to lose are the very ones keeping you from your next breakthrough. Let them go. Let the silence cleanse your soul. Let the loneliness stretch your spirit, because in the stillness, that's where clarity is born. That's where God whispers your next step. That's where you find your voice again. And when you do, the real ones will find you. The aligned ones will rise to meet you. The next level will open up like it was always waiting. So today you choose comfort or calling, crowds or clarity, familiarity or future, pigeons or eagles. Your destiny is waiting, but it won't wait forever. Make room, cut loose, fly high. Your circle is slowing you down. And when you finally let go of who's holding you back, something powerful happens. You feel lighter, you see clearer, you move faster, you stop second guessing yourself, because the fog that clouded your direction was never life. It was the people walking beside you, whispering doubt in your ear and pretending it was love. But love doesn't feel like pressure. Love doesn't come with shame. Love doesn't shrink you. Real love makes room for your evolution. It doesn't compete. It complements. It doesn't get jealous. It gets inspired. It doesn't pull you back. It walks with you even when the road gets steep. But some of y'all are walking with folks who were never supposed to go past the first chapter, and you keep writing them into every page of your story, then wonder why the plot feels off. It's not the vision that's broken. It's the cast. It's the crew. It's the energy you're entertaining behind the curtain. Let me tell you something loud and clear. Your dreams are not community projects. You don't need 10 opinions to validate your next move. You don't need your cousin's approval. You don't need your old friends to get it. What you need is God's green light and your own obedience. Because there will be seasons in your life when the applause dies down, the room empty, the phone gets quiet, and you'll think, did I lose everyone? But what you really lost were distractions. You lost limitations. You lost the noise keeping you from your next divine assignment. And when God pulls you into isolation, it's never punishment. It's preparation. It's where he strips you of codependency, where he reminds you that your identity isn't found in who claps for you, but in who created you. You've been craving loyalty, but what you needed was alignment. And there's a big difference. Loyal people will stand beside you, even in dysfunction. Aligned people will pull you out of dysfunction and remind you who you really are. Loyal people might love your comfort zone. Aligned people will challenge you to break it wide open. So ask yourself this question every morning. Am I walking with people who feed my calling or flatter my comfort? Because there are people who will celebrate the you that doesn't challenge them, the you that plays small, the you that laughs at the same jokes, drinks the same pain, repeats the same cycles. But the moment you choose peace over pettiness, the moment you choose purpose over performance, the moment you stop attending every crisis they manufacture for attention, they'll say you switched up. They'll say you forgot where you came from. They'll say you're acting brand new. And you know what? Good. Let them talk. Because while they gossip, you're growing. While they circle the same mountain, you're climbing. While they criticize your change, you're stepping into your calling. Growth will always offend the stagnant. And if your elevation intimidates them, they were never really with you to begin with. Look, you can't make everyone understand your journey. You can't convince people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You can't break generational curses and still be liked by everyone sitting at the table that built them. You've got to choose their comfort or your calling, their approval or your alignment, their friendship or your future, because you were not called to blend in. You were not called to be liked. You were not called to babysit people who had every chance to grow with you, but chose comfort instead. Let me make it plain. You don't owe everyone access to you just because you love them. Love can exist at a distance. Love doesn't mean access. Love doesn't mean obligation. Some of the most powerful healing comes when you say, I love you, but I can't walk with you anymore. I love you, but my peace matters more than your approval. I love you, but your energy no longer aligns with where I'm going. And that doesn't make you rude. That makes you awake. You finally woke up to the fact that your purpose can't breathe in rooms filled with jealousy, small talk, and shallow vision. You need depth. You need substance. You need iron that sharpens iron. You need people who make you better, who stretch you, correct you, celebrate you, and cover you. Because the right circle, they don't compete. They collaborate. They don't tear you down. They build you up. They don't mock your ambition. They fuel your drive. They don't get quiet when you win. They get louder. 'Cause they're secure in themselves. They want to see you win, not just beside them, but even beyond them. So if you've been waiting for a sign to clean house, to reset your circle, to build differently, this is it. You will not reach the mountaintop dragging people who were never meant to leave the valley. You will not heal by staying in rooms that only know how to reopen your wounds. You will not thrive by fitting into conversations that water down your brilliance just to keep everyone else comfortable. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them question your silence. Let them misunderstand your distance. Let them miss the old version of you, because that version, she's gone. He's gone. They're not coming back. You outgrew what once sustained you. You evolved beyond what once held you. And you have every right to protect what God is birthing in you now. This is sacred ground. You're not just building for now. You're building for your bloodline, for your children, your children's children. You're breaking chains, not just for you, but for every person who comes after you. So protect your focus, guard your peace, audit your circle, and never again apologize for needing people who can hold weight, not just space. Because where you're going, only those who were forged in fire, who walk in truth, who speak life, who move with vision, who rise when the world falls. Only those people can go with you. And when you find them, you'll know it won't be loud. It won't be forced. It won't feel like proving your worth. It'll feel like alignment, like breath, like purpose wrapped in skin. And that, my friend, is the circle you've been praying for. But before you can walk with them, you've got to release the one slowing you down. So take a breath. Let go and rise. You were born for this. And now that you've seen the truth, what are you going to do with it? Because awareness without action is just regret in slow motion. It's not enough to nod in agreement. It's not enough to say facts and scroll on. You've been inspired before, but inspiration without execution is how years go by and nothing changes. The difference between where you are and where you're meant to be isn't your potential, it's your proximity. You've been standing too close to indecision, too loyal to familiarity, too patient with people who don't even see you. You keep giving your energy to people who haven't earned your trust. You keep explaining your dreams to those who only think in limits. You keep making room for voices that bring confusion instead of clarity. Tell me this, how can you build anything meaningful when you're surrounded by spectators instead of teammates? You're busy trying to convince people to care, and in doing so, you've lost time you can't get back. You need to reposition. You need to elevate your standards for who gets a seat at your table. Not everyone who eats with you wants to see you full. Some sit there just to count your portions. Some smile only until you pass them by. Some help just enough to look innocent, but never enough to be invested. Discernment is your superpower now. See, the higher you rise, the more invisible snakes become. They stop hissing. They start whispering. They don't strike. They suggest. But their presence is just as dangerous, just more sophisticated. You've got to stop confusing time served with value added. The number of years someone has been in your life doesn't make them worthy of where you're going. A title doesn't equal truth. A label doesn't mean loyalty. A history doesn't mean harmony. Evaluate the fruit, not the familiarity. You want to move with intention. Surround yourself with people who think in terms of legacy. People who don't flinch when the plan changes. Who pivot with purpose. People who speak goals fluently. Who bring solutions before complaint. People who understand time as a resource and waste none of it on jealousy, gossip, or ego. Because there's a different frequency where builders move, where visionaries speak in blueprints, not drama, where conversations revolve around impact, not opinion, where the currency is discipline, not distraction. That's where you belong, but to reach it, you have to climb out of circles that romanticize chaos. You have to break ties with those addicted to the struggle, who view peace as boredom, who interpret focus as arrogant. You have to remove yourself from cycles that only repeat because you never had the courage to interrupt them. This isn't about being better than anyone. It's about being better for yourself. You can't keep borrowing energy from toxic dynamics and expecting to build something whole. You can't pull from dry wells and expect to overflow. You can't seek encouragement from environments built to undermine you. And you know exactly who they are. The ones who laugh a little too hard when you fail. The ones who change the subject when you shine. The ones who remember your worst moments with perfect clarity but forget your milestones. You deserve to be surrounded by people who treat your presence like a privilege, not an afterthought. People who don't just tolerate your greatness but honor it. People who don't compete, they collaborate. They sharpen, they elevate. That's the kind of alignment that multiplies momentum. Imagine waking up every day with people around you who pull out the best in you without even trying. Imagine sharing ideas without filtering yourself. Imagine being poured into with the same intensity you've always given. That's not a fantasy. That's the reward for choosing better. But first, you have to close the chapter on expired connections. Let go of obligations that no longer have integrity. Cut the threads that bind you to false peace and emotional debt. Some of you are emotionally bankrupt because you've made endless withdrawals to keep everyone else comfortable. You've paid the price for loyalty while others cashed in on your silence. You've invested deeply in people who treat your vulnerability like leverage. But not anymore. You are not a lifeline for people drowning in their own refusal to grow. You are not a mirror for others to project their insecurity onto. You are not a placeholder until someone finds more convenient company. You are a visionary, a force. voice, a builder of future things, and you don't need a crowd to validate what God already confirmed in you. You will no longer engage in conversations that insult your destiny. You will no longer explain your boundaries to those who repeatedly cross them. You will no longer entertain what drains your spirit just to avoid conflict. You'll be misunderstood. Let them misunderstand you. You'll be called distant. Let them stay close to dysfunction. You'll be labeled different. Good. Difference is your distinction. You didn't survive what you did just to blend in. You didn't crawl through that darkness to keep your light dim. You didn't fight for your healing to return to what broke you. You're not who you were before, and that's a good thing. So stand tall in your change, speak boldly in your clarity, move swiftly in your purpose, and never again look back out of guilt. You owe no one an apology for evolving. They had a chance to grow with you. They had a front row seat to your struggle. They saw the transformation and still chose not to rise. So let them sit, let them watch, let them stay stuck if they must. But you walk on, because the circle you choose from here on out will determine how far you go. Not how fast, but how far. Not how loud, but how lasting. And when the dust settles, it won't be about who started with you. It'll be about who stayed true. So build with the builders, break bread with the aligned, walk boldly with those who move in purpose. Let everyone else figure themselves out. Your time is too sacred. Your assignment is too urgent. Your calling is too heavy. Protect it. Move wisely, and above all, don't let your circle slow you down. You can feel it, can't you? That rising inside you, that awareness that something has to shift, that the environment you've been sitting in is too small for the vision you're carrying, that you've been caged by comfort, clipped by familiarity, and tethered to people who benefit more from your stagnation than your success. But no more, because now you're stepping into a season that demands intentionality. You're stepping into a space where every choice either fuels your future or sabotages it. There's no more room for convenience-based relationships or sympathy-based loyalty. This is where you graduate from being accessible to being aligned. Because truth be told, access is currency. And if you keep giving VIP passes to people who treat you like general admission, you'll keep bleeding time, energy, and peace for people who don't even recognize the value of your presence. It's time to change the locks on your life, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Not because you're angry, but because you're awake. You've learned the hard way. Being surrounded doesn't always mean being supported. You can have a full house and still feel empty. You can have followers and still lack friends. You can have noise and still miss the sound of truth. So now it's different. Now you're listening closer, watching sharper, discerning quicker, because energy doesn't lie. It only waits for you to acknowledge what it's been whispering all along. And what's it been saying? That some people were only meant to be a lesson, not a lifestyle. That some relationships were chapters, not covers. That some connections only made sense when you were broken. But now that you're healing, the mismatch is impossible to ignore. And it's not about hate, it's about wholeness. It's about being so in tune with your divine assignment that you refuse to let dead weight disguise itself as duty. You're not cold, you've just stopped lighting yourself on fire to keep others warm. You're not arrogant, you've just realized your peace is non-negotiable. You're not ungrateful, you've just decided not to confuse shared pain with shared purpose. There is a difference between being surrounded and being seen, a difference between being known and being nourished, a difference between connection and alignment. And you finally outgrown surface level interactions. You finally evolved past trauma bonded friendships. You finally decided to stop shrinking so others won't feel small in your presence. Because let's be honest, the fear of outshining others has kept you dim for too long. You've been tiptoeing around your brilliance, whispering your vision, minimizing your voice just to protect fragile egos. But destiny doesn't whisper. Destiny roars, and now it's time to own your roar, to stop apologizing for wanting more, to stop editing yourself for palatability, to stop seeking permission from people who lack the capacity to understand your calling. Because if they could see what God sees in you, they'd treat you differently. And if they can't, they're not meant to walk with you. There's a reason why eagles don't fly in flock. There's a reason why lions hunt in small numbers. There's a reason why rare things are rarely surrounded. So if you've been feeling lonely, isolated, misunderstood, good. That means you're shedding what no longer serves you. That means you're ascending to an altitude where only the focus can breathe. That means you've stopped feeding from tables that serve comfort over conviction. And yes, it will be quiet at first. The phone will ring less. The invites will slow down. The texts will go unread. But in that silence, you'll hear something louder than you've ever heard before. Your own voice. The one that got lost in the noise. The one that got buried under approval seeking. The one that whispered more while everyone else shouted settle. And when that voice returns, honor it, because that voice will lead you to the people who don't just see your potential, but call it forth. The ones who don't need explanation, just execution. The ones who won't let you stay comfortable when you're built for greatness. The ones who bring strategy when you bring vision. The ones who won't envy your light, they'll reflect it. That is the circle you deserve. That is the energy you've earned, and that is what you now protect, not with fences, but with fire. Because now you understand everything you allow around you is either an investment in your purpose or a tax on your peace. And you no longer pay for access with your joy. You no longer trade authenticity for belonging. You no longer shrink to be digestible. If they choke on your truth, let them. This is not the season to be misunderstood in silence. This is not the time to dim for harmony. This is the hour where you break the cycle, burn the bridges that led nowhere, and build with those who carry bricks, not burden, because you've done your time in circles that recycled doubt. You've done your time in cliques that ran on gossip. You've done your time in systems that praised compliance and punished calling. And now you build differently. Now you move with clarity. Now you link arms only with those who sharpen your edge, fuel your fire, and honor your soul. You've spent years earning this evolution. You've cried tears behind closed doors to grow through what they mocked in public. You've sacrificed your comfort for your character. You didn't come this far to circle the same mountains with people who have no intention of climbing. So if you hear nothing else today, hear this. Your circle is your compass. If it doesn't point you toward purpose, it's not worth following. If it doesn't reflect your values, it's not worth staying in. If it doesn't stretch your mind or stir your faith, it's not your tribe, it's a trap. This is your wake-up call. This is your permission to pivot. This is your moment to draw the line, and on the other side of that line, free peace, momentum, purpose, people who pray with you before they post about you, people who correct you in private and defend you in public, people who show up not just when you're broken, but when you're rising. That's what happens when you stop entertaining circles that slow you down. You make space for the divine to step in. You make room for your next level. You accelerate, you expand, you exhale. And when the world looks up and asks how you made it so far so fast, you'll smile and say, I stopped walking with the wrong crowd.